Welcome in, everyone. Today, we're diving deep into something a bit unexpected, maybe even a little controversial.
Oh, yeah. This one's definitely a perspective shift.
Loneliness, but like the good kind.
Good kind of loneliness.
Yeah, exactly. So we've got excerpts from this book, Turning Loneliness into Strength by the LPot Community. And they've basically gathered all these stories of people who have turned loneliness into something positive. Like they used it to grow and become more resilient. Some even ended up helping others because of it.
It's kind of like they took this really tough emotion and spun it into gold. You know, it's pretty fascinating to see how they challenge those typical assumptions about being lonely and how they make you think about it in a whole new way.
All right, so let's jump right in. Emma's story is a good place to start, I think. She moves to a new city for work, has to leave all her friends and family behind,
Yeah.
and then bam! All of a sudden, she's hit with this wave of loneliness, that feeling of being surrounded by people but still feeling totally alone. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's not even just about physically being alone. It's more about that feeling of not connecting or belonging. That can be really tough.
And Emma could easily just let that loneliness take over. But instead, she decides to do something she's always wanted to try, painting.
And it's not even just picking up a brush. It's more like this period of being alone gives her this space to really get into it,
Mhm.
to get better without all the distractions and stuff. It's like the loneliness almost gave her permission to just focus on the art.
That's a great point. So it's like solitude can actually be a really powerful tool for figuring yourself out when you think about it. It lets you connect with yourself and explore what you're passionate about without needing anyone else's approval.
Right.
And the best part is that Emma doesn't just keep her art to herself. She shares it online, finds a local art group, and boom, she's not just getting good at painting, she's building a whole new community. And it all started with that feeling of being alone.
That's what I think is so powerful here. Emma didn't just sit around and wait for people to come to her. She made things happen. She put herself out there and opened up a whole world of possibilities. It shows us that even when you feel alone, you still have the power to make a difference.
So this makes me wonder about those of us who haven't really found that thing, that passion they're just dying to pursue.
Mm-hmm.
Does that mean we're stuck with this loneliness forever?
Not at all. It's not about already having a passion. It's about using that time alone to explore and try new things without judging yourself. It's
Yeah.
like getting back to that childlike curiosity and letting yourself mess up and make mistakes and maybe even find something you never thought you would.
So instead of dreading those moments of solitude, maybe we should think of them as opportunities like, hey, loneliness, what have you got for me today? What hidden talent are we going to discover?
I like that. It's all about changing your perspective.
Yeah.
Seeing being alone not as something bad, but as a chance to connect with yourself, learn something new, maybe even surprise yourself with what you can do.
This is good stuff. I'm already feeling less scared of loneliness and more like maybe it could be exciting.
That's the spirit. And just wait till you hear about James. He takes this whole transforming loneliness thing to a whole other level.
Oh, okay. I'm definitely intrigued. Let's hear it.
So James's story, this one is, it takes us into a whole different area. Grief,
Mm.
where that loneliness can be really, really deep.
Yeah. It's that feeling of being completely alone in your pain, like nobody else gets it. It's tough. But what's incredible is that James takes all that grief and does something amazing with it.
He starts writing,
Look.
puts all his feelings and everything he's going through into this blog.
Mhm.
It's really raw and honest,
Mm.
And when he shares his pain, something pretty remarkable happens.
He finds all these other people who have gone through similar losses, people who also thought they were the only ones feeling that way, and suddenly they realize they're not alone. They find comfort in his words, that feeling of being understood. It's super important for healing.
It really shows you the power of being vulnerable. When we share who we really are, even the hard parts, we give other people the chance to do the same. And that's where healing can start.
And this isn't just some random story. There's actually a lot of research to back this up. Studies show that writing about tough experiences can be really good for you. It helps you process emotions, make sense of what happened, and even deal with things like PTSD.
Yeah, and when you add the power of online communities to that therapeutic writing, it becomes this incredible force for healing and connection. James's blog basically became a virtual support group, a safe place for people to share their stories, offer encouragement, and go through grief together.
And it doesn't stop there. James takes it a step further and turns his blog into this nonprofit to support people who are grieving. It's like he took his own pain and made it into something hopeful for others.
It's a really great example of what can happen when we turn our pain into a purpose. It's realizing that even our hardest experiences can be a source of strength and inspiration.
It makes you think about all the times you keep your struggles to yourself. afraid of being judged or burdening others. What if by not sharing our stories, we're actually not helping ourselves or anyone else?
That's an important question. And I think it gets to the heart of why we're so afraid to be vulnerable. We don't want to seem weak or be judged or rejected, but the truth is, our vulnerability can be our biggest strength. It's what helps us connect with others, build empathy, and create a sense of shared humanity.
This is pretty mind-blowing. We've gone from painting to online support groups to nonprofits, and it all started with loneliness. It's like this hidden potential just waiting to be discovered.
That's the thing about it. Loneliness, when you approach it with the right mindset, can be this amazing catalyst for growth, both for yourself and for everyone.
Okay, so we've seen how being alone can help you find yourself and how sharing your struggles can create connection and healing. But what about those of us who are always surrounded by people but still feel alone? Priya's story digs into that.
Priya's story. It's a good reminder that loneliness isn't always about being physically alone. It's more about feeling disconnected, unseen, misunderstood, even when you're with people.
Yeah, it's like being in a room full of people but still feeling invisible, like you're speaking a different language. And that can be even more isolating than actually being alone.
For sure. And instead of trying to force those connections that weren't working, Priya turned inward. She started practicing mindfulness and meditation, looking for peace and connection within herself.
It's almost like she realized that the most important relationship is the one you have with yourself. And by working on that connection, she found this peace that didn't depend on anyone else.
That's where you see loneliness becoming this push for self-awareness and inner strength. Practices like meditation. They teach you to look at your thoughts and feelings without judgment, to be kind to yourself and others, and to find that inner peace that's always there.
But let's be real. Not everyone can go on meditation retreats or has all the fancy apps. So how do we find that peace without spending a ton of money or needing a guru?
Oh, definitely. There are so many easy things you can do in your everyday life. Spending time in nature, journaling, listening to calming music, even just taking some deep breaths. These can all help you feel grounded and connect with that stillness inside.
Okay, so we've got painting, writing, meditation. This list of loneliness superpowers is getting pretty long. I'm starting to think we should call loneliness the ultimate life hack.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's about changing how you see loneliness. Not as something bad, but as a teacher, a guide, something that can help you grow and change.
Speaking of catalysts, Marcus's story takes us in a different direction. Action. He's like the classic new guy in town, doesn't know anybody, and starts feeling invisible. But then he does something really interesting.
Instead of waiting for people to find him, he takes charge. He starts volunteering at this food bank. Just a simple act that ends up doing so much more than he could have imagined.
So he's not only fighting his own loneliness, but he's also helping his community. And there's research that shows that helping others is good for you too. Reduces stress, boosts your immune system. It's a win-win.
Exactly. And it's not just about the volunteering itself. It's about the connections you make. When we work together towards a goal, we bond. We build community. We get that feeling of belonging that can be so hard to find when we're isolated.
And get this, Marcus doesn't stop there. He ends up leading this community garden project, bringing people together to grow food, connect with nature, and create something beautiful and good for you. It's like he took that feeling of loneliness and turned it into this flourishing garden of connection.
It's a great metaphor for what community involvement can do. When we actively participate in our communities, we create chances to connect. We contribute to something bigger than ourselves and start building a sense of belonging that includes everyone.
All right, I'm getting inspired. I'm feeling less like, poor me, I'm lonely, and more like, what can I do to connect with people and make a difference?
That's what I like to hear. And Sophia's story, which we'll get to next, takes us into the world of creative expression. It shows how loneliness can spark artistic exploration and connection.
Okay, I'm ready to get creative. Let's hear it. Sophia's story. It's different, It's about feeling misunderstood, which I think a lot of people can relate to. It's like when you're around people, but you still feel alone because you don't feel like they really see you or get you.
It is. It's its own type of loneliness.
Yeah.
That feeling of not fitting in with everyone else. Like you're speaking a totally different language. It can be tough, especially for people who are more introspective or sensitive.
Yeah. So for Sophia, that feeling led her to journaling and poetry. She just started writing everything down, finding comfort in expressing herself without having to explain anything to anyone.
That's the thing about creative expression. It gives you a way to get all that stuff out of your head. To give shape to your feelings and experiences and connect with something bigger than yourself. Yeah. It's like self-therapy. It can be really healing.
And there's research that shows that doing creative stuff like writing or painting or playing music can help reduce stress, improve your mood, and even make your brain work better.
It's like you're using a different part of your brain. You're tapping into this creativity and imagination. It can be really freeing. And for some people, like Sophia, it can even help them connect with others.
Because get this, Sophia starts sharing her poetry online, and surprise, surprise, it connects with people from all over. People who get what she's saying about loneliness and vulnerability and trying to find connection.
It reminds us that our stories are important, that our voices matter, and that even when we feel most alone, we can still create something that touches other people.
And Sophia's story, it actually ends with her publishing a book of poetry, which is amazing. She took that feeling of being misunderstood and turned it into something that connects with and inspires others.
It shows what can happen when you're vulnerable and express yourself creatively. When we share our true selves, we encourage others to do the same. And that's where the magic happens.
So we've covered a lot today. We talked about how solitude can help you discover yourself, how vulnerability can lead to healing and connection, how mindfulness can help you find inner peace, how taking action can build community, and how expressing yourself creatively can give a voice to your experiences. I'm starting to think that maybe loneliness is actually the most underrated superpower there is.
Uh-huh. I like that. It's all about changing how you see loneliness. Not as something bad, but as a chance to grow, transform, and connect with others.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into turning loneliness into strength, what's the one thing you hope people will take away from this?
I hope they leave feeling empowered, knowing that even when they feel most alone, they have the power to turn that loneliness into something meaningful and good.
I love that. And for anyone who wants to learn more, definitely check out the LPot community. They have a great website, a YouTube channel with lots of inspiring stories, and even a Discord server where you can connect with others who are going through the same thing.
It's a great resource for anyone who wants to look at loneliness in a new way and discover what it can really offer.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep connecting, and keep embracing your own unique journey.